Electricity is power. It allows us to be impossible. Some have even called it the foundation of civilization, and I agree with them. Now, you can have the nicest gadgets in the world, but without electricity, they're all useless. Imagine an MRI, a machine so powerful that it can see inside a human being's brain. Without electricity, it's just a big, expensive box filling up too much space. Now, think about all modern day innovations, all the cool gadgets we get to use. Think about social media, for example. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. We can access these tools by using an internet-enabled device. But without electricity, an internet-enabled device is useless. Like many Nigerians, I was born and grew up in a society where the words "up NEPA" were embedded into everyday speech. Then even after the organization NEPA was dissolved, people still say "up NEPA." The National Electric Power Authority was the state-owned vertically integrated electric utility that was supposed to provide electricity to all Nigerians. Its service was abysmal. It was so bad that Nigerians today call it "never expect power always." I remember being a young boy playing outside and we would hear, "NEPA has brought the light, up NEPA," and we would all run into the house to either watch TV or iron our clothes or do chores that could only be done with electricity. I and many other Nigerians planned our life around when NEPA took or brought the light. A lot of us still do today. It was not until I went to the university and eventually graduate school to study electrical engineering that I really understood the implications of what the words "up NEPA" or "NEPA has taken the light" really meant. It wasn't until I went to school that I really understood the facts behind that. And let's talk about the facts a little bit. In 2005, NEPA became a public company. Its assets were transferred into a newly formed company called the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN. PHCN was eventually unbundled into 11 distribution companies, 6 generating companies, and 1 transmission companies. In 2013, all 11 distribution companies were sold to private investors, and the government maintained an ownership of 40% in those distribution companies. But all generation companies were sold to investors completely. Today, Nigeria has a generating capacity of 12,000 megawatts. Now, due to technical and system losses and other operational issues, only 6,000 megawatts is available. Now, think about this, 6,000 megawatts for 200 million people. Now, let's put that in perspective. Finland, a small Scandinavian country of 5.5 million people, has a generating capacity of over 17,000 megawatts, while Nigeria, the largest African country of 200 million people, has a generating capacity of 12,000 megawatts, of which only 6,000 is available. Now, due to the shortage of generation, transmission, and distribution capacities, according to the World Bank, there are about 33 outages in Nigeria every month. And the average duration of an outage is 8 hours. I also learned something else in graduate school. I learned that I grew up in a home that was privileged and fortunate enough to even have access to the electric grid. I learned that there are Nigerians today who do not have access at all to a connection to the grid. These Nigerians are considered to live in energy poverty. Today, there are 95 million Nigerians who live in energy poverty. Now, energy poverty is not a Nigerian problem. It is a global problem. According to the United Nations, there are about 800 million people today in the world without access to electricity. That is 800 million people living in energy poverty. Now, I knew I had to do something about this. I had to do my part in addressing this problem. I knew that I would look at myself with disdain 20 years from now if Nigerians still said NEPA has taken the light and I did nothing about it. So I made a decision based on these discoveries. I decided that I'll be an entrepreneur that produces and sells electricity in communities that do not have access to the electric grid. I decided to become an electricity entrepreneur. I was almost done with my master's degree when I called my friend Abiy Joffrey and asked him if he wanted to start an energy company that focused on rural electrification. He said yes. We wrote the mission of our company to provide clean, reliable, and affordable electricity to 1 million Nigerian households and businesses by 2028. I would like to share some of the lessons we've learned and some of the solutions that we've been implementing since we started this journey. Number 1, immerse yourself in the problem. Now, reading about people living without electricity is way different from experiencing it yourself. There is a kind of knowledge you can get from experiencing a problem that you would never understand from reading about it. So we decided to immerse ourselves into the problem. We decided to go into the communities to experience what it's like to live without electricity. We did not assume. We discovered that in many of these communities, although they have no access to the grid, they use small portable petrol generators. Now they use these generators to pump water or process gari, almost strictly for business activities, that is, to process gari that they can sell in the market. And they can only use these generators for 1 to 2 hours a day. And to refuel the generators, they have to travel sometimes as far as 3 to 5 miles to be able to buy petrol at the nearest petrol station. We discovered in one of the communities a now abandoned health center that had to close its doors because they couldn't afford the petrol or diesel to electrify it. These are issues that you would never foresee if you do not immerse yourself in a problem. 2, we use state-of-the-art technology with respect to our local context to address this problem. We decided to use microgrids as part of our solution. Now, microgrids are small electric power systems that are built usually close to the homes and businesses that they serve. Now, due to their size, they do not have a transmission component that makes them less expensive than conventional electric power systems. The best part about them is that they can operate off-grid, making them a near-perfect solution to provide electricity to people who live in off-grid or remote communities. Nigeria is close to the equator and blessed with solar energy. Hence, we can use microgrids powered by solar energy to produce and distribute electricity for the community. While implementing this, we also ran into other problems. Now, the larger the community you have, the larger the distribution component of your microgrid is. And the further away you are from the generating system of your microgrid, the likelihood you're going to have power quality issues. In conventional power systems, this problem is solved by the use of a transformer. But transformers are expensive and usually have long lead times and would not be very helpful to our solution. So we decided again to use state-of-the-art power electronic voltage stabilizers to enable us provide electricity to those people who are further away from the generating system of our microgrids. So how do the community members pay for this electricity? We realized that a lot of them had mobile phones. So we decided to build a system that allowed them to use their mobile phones to buy electricity and turn their power on. Today, the communities we operate in have 24 hours of electricity. Urban communities who are connected to the grid cannot make that claim. 3, community engagement. While the capital cost of off-grid microgrids are relatively small when compared to natural gas plants or hydroelectric plants, they are still substantial. Now, developing these projects in a new market involves a lot of risk, and many of those risks are unknown. To mitigate our risk, we involve the entire community from the development phase to the construction phase. And even after that, we still engage them. We hire some of them to be our ambassadors. We train some of them to be maintenance engineers to perform small operational and maintenance work on the system. They are as invested in our project as we are in the project. Finally, electrons are free, but not electricity. This is the same way air is free, but not conditioned air. If you want your air to be cool or warm, irrespective of the temperature outside, you need to condition it. The process of conditioning your air has a price. Hence, if you want electrons to be in the form that they could power your phone and your laptops, you need to be willing to pay for the process that goes into making that possible. There's a price to be paid for the process to transform electrons into electricity, a market price. We do not know what the market price of electricity is in Nigeria. This is because the prices that are charged by the local distribution companies are decided by acts of regulation and not by market forces of supply and demand. Without the right price, electricity would never be provided in the quality and quantity demanded by Nigerians. Many of us are afraid that if the prices of electricity is not controlled by regulation, that the prices would be so high that a lot of people will not be able to afford it. Now, this is true in the short run, but in the long run, the forces of demand and supply will bring those prices down. Let us remember our telecommunications industry. When the first mobile phones were sold in Nigeria in 2001, a SIM card cost about 50,000 naira. Today, a SIM card costs about 50 naira. In over 18 years, the price of a SIM card fell by almost 100,000%. Now, this would have not been possible if the price of a SIM card was regulated in 2001. Today, we can check on our families, our friends, our children anywhere in the world. This was impossible 20 years ago. But 20 years ago, we still said NEPA has taken the light. Today, we're still saying NEPA has taken the light. The question is, 20 years from now, will the situation remain the same, or would we do something to change it? Thank you.